Hello. Welcome back to Life After Plus One. I'm Leanne, your podcast host and your single parent mentor and coach. And today I want to talk about co-parenting. Because realistically, if we could all co-parent amicably without any issues, single parent life would be 1,000 times easier, wouldn't it? So today I'm going to give some tips on what you can do in yourself to make co-parenting easier. What we need to remember here is we can't change our ex. Your ex is who they are. No matter what you do, say, or how you react, you can't change them. You can only change how you show up. You can only change how you react. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on in today's episode. And I know some of you might be saying, but they're an arsehole, but they're doing this, but they're doing that. I understand. I've been in an extremely toxic co-parenting relationship myself, so I totally understand what it's like to feel like shit with someone who just refuses to cooperate with you. And that's what's important, and that's what we are going to focus on in today's episode. Co-parenting in a way where you show up that benefits you. And let's unpack that. Welcome to the Life After Plus One podcast, where we turn life's lemons into delightful lemonade. Get ready for inspiring stories, uplifting conversations, and all the tips and tricks to rock your single parent journey with style. I'm your host, Leanne, and it's time to embrace the adventure of Life After Plus One. So let's dive in. So how do you show up differently? How do you co-parent with someone that is constantly making your life a living hell, that is constantly trying to drag you through the mud? They might be blaming you for everything, because yes, I've been there. They might be making your life difficult. They might be sending you messages and you're reading like, what the fuck? That did not just happen. They're trying to gaslight you and put things out there that you know are just not true, and you're just like, this does not make sense. And it really messes with your head. However, as I just said in the intro, you can't change them. This is who they are. They're showing you that they're not going to cooperate with you. They're showing you that they're not just going to show up one day and say, oh, I'm sorry, can we be best friends, or can we co-parent amicably? They will not do that. But when you show up differently, when you show up putting yourself as a priority, it makes the world of difference. Because when you're still living in hope of things from them, you're still wanting something from them. They see that, they know that, they feed off that energy, and they're going to milk that for everything they can. But when you take your power back and you show that you're the boss of your world, then they can't break that. And that's what's important. So the first step to co-parenting amicably, where you can show up in control of your life, is accepting. That is the first step. Accepting them for who they are. Accepting that this is their mum or this is their dad. This is the other parent. You can't change that. You can't get rid of them. You can't just make them disappear. They are here. They are in your life. They are in your kids' lives. And the more you fight it, the harder it is for you. And it's not about not fighting to make life easier for them. It's about not fighting, because what kind of co-parenting life do you have when you're constantly engaging in fighting and drama with your ex? It is draining, it is exhausting, and it is toxic. You don't need that. So accept that this is who they are. Because quite honestly, even though that sounds like a simple step, it is one step that holds people back the most, because there's that constant expectation of you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you should be calling me this time, you should be calling the kids then, you should be. You have these expectations of your ex, and even though in your mind they're normal expectations, nothing crazy, it's nothing out of this world, however, they're not going to show up in the same way as you do. They're not going to parent the same way you do. And when you can accept that, your co-parenting life does get so much easier. And some people might be thinking, well, I shouldn't have to accept this behavior. I shouldn't have to accept that. The thing is, if your kids are safe, if your kids are not in harm's way, if your kids, are being looked after, then that is all that matters. If they're in a place where you are concerned, where you are worried, where there's something where the kids could be in harm's way, 100% that is very different. And yes, you should be concerned. However, if it's just because they parent differently, or they may let the kids stay up a little bit later, or maybe they're not as fancy with dinner time and they just do takeaway or easy meals and you do nice, big, nutritious dinners, and that bothers you. At the end of the day, they're not just going to turn around and be a gourmet cook because you don't like the food that they serve. And this is where you just need to accept. The kids are safe, the kids are looked after, the kids are fed, the kids are warm, the kids are getting the attention, then that's what matters. You just need to accept this is the situation, this is who they are, they will parent differently to you. Even your close friends will parent differently to you. Even your mother and your father will parent differently to you. So of course your ex is going to parent differently to you. And most importantly, it's not about just accepting that they parent differently. It's also accepting the breakup. That's a big part of it. And that's another reason why there is so many issues with co-parenting. Because people are still holding on to that hurt. They're holding on to what happened in the breakup. I'm not going to cooperate with this person because of what they did to me. I'm not going to help them out. I'm not going to do this for them. No way, I'm not doing that. That's the mentality that so many people go into the co-parenting world with, thinking, nope, I'm not helping them. They're an asshole. They did this to me. But you've got to remember, your breakup is not the same as your co-parenting relationship. They're two different things. You need to keep them separate because your co-parenting relationship is about your kids. Your breakup, without sounding rude or nasty here, is about you. And that's what you need to focus on. And staying angry at your ex when you're co-parenting, when it involves the kids, is not only impacting you, but it's impacting the kids. And it happens so often, and this is why there is so much drama and hurt in the world of co-parenting, because they're still holding on to that hurt from the breakup. They've just gone to a breakup and they can't just let go of this person and block them and get rid of them. You've got to co-parent with this person. And people don't know how to do that. People don't know how to relate or interact with someone who they hate, who they don't want anything to do with. And that is where someone like myself comes in. But you need to let go of that breakup. You need to let go of that hurt. Because your breakup is not the same as your co-parenting relationship. They're two different things. Keep your personal life separate to your life that is involved with your kids. And when you're able to accept those two things, that they parent differently and that your breakup needs to be totally separate to the way you interact as co-parents, then your co-parenting relationship will be a whole lot easier. Now, I'm not saying you need to act like nothing's happened. I'm not saying that you're not allowed to be hurt or angry or pissed off. Yes, you are allowed to be. But you don't need to rub it into their face every time you see them. You don't need to try and remind them of that or guilt them into that every time you have an interaction that is about your kids. Snarky remarks, messages, all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't benefit anyone. All you're doing is showing that you're hurt and you're refusing to let it go. Everyone goes through hurt as a single parent. Everyone goes through heartbreak and anger and frustration. You go through those roller coaster of emotions. But the more you're holding onto it, the more you're holding yourself back. And the more it affects your kids. And that is sometimes a reason why kids choose not to go to the other parent's house. And I see it a lot. Well, my kids don't want to go there, so I shouldn't have to send them. But a lot of the times the kids are not wanting to go. Now, this isn't all the time, but this does happen in a number of incidences where the kids choose not to go because they're hearing certain things from the one parent. They may not be directly saying it to the kids, but they might be talking about things. Or the kids might be hearing conversations with other adults. Or that parent might be saying how much the other parent is a dickhead or what they've done or whatever else. So the kids feel like they need to protect one parent or they feel like they need to favor this parent. So they're like, no, I don't want to go see them. Or they feel bad. They feel like they're letting one parent down if they want to go see the other parent. They feel like they then have to take sides. This is what happens when your breakup emotions get involved with your co-parenting relationship. You're allowed to be hurt. You're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel all those emotions. But you don't need to bring your kids in the middle of that. You keep that as an adult issue and work through it with your friends, with myself, with this podcast, with another therapist, with someone else. But don't let your kids in the middle of that. So when you're wanting to co-parent amicably, work on accepting that they're going to parent differently and working on accepting that the breakup has happened and you need to separate that from any interaction you have with them from now on. And it's not easy, but it is possible. And in the process of this, another thing you need to let go of when it comes to your ex is any expectations. And this is a big one. And it sounds simple, but it is a big one. Because quite often when you go to a breakup, you just think, well, that's the other parent, so they should be doing this. That's the other parent, so they should be stepping up. They should be more present. They should be more involved. They should be doing this. They should be getting their Christmas presents and not expecting me to do it. Or they should be doing whatever it is. They should be involved in the kids' sports. And you just think they should be. Having these constant expectations is only letting yourself down. And I know you think to yourself, but they're their mum or they're their dad. That's what they should be doing. Yes, we all know that. We all know that. This is what they should be doing. But if they're not doing it and you're constantly expecting them to do it, they're showing you now they're not doing it. So if you keep expecting it, you're letting yourself down. Just because they're not doing it doesn't mean it's right, because no, it's not right. We all know that you should be involved in your kids' lives. We all know that you should be present. You should be there. And you want a parent that's going to show up and be emotionally available and physically present for your kids. But if they're not doing that, constantly having that expectation when they've shown you time and time and time again that they're not there, you're only going to let yourself down. You're only going to upset yourself and possibly also your kids if you've told the kids that they're going to be there or they're going to be doing something, or you say they should be there and they don't turn up, and then you get let down and then the kids get let down. When you let go of any expectations, it makes it easier. If they're there, great. If they're not, no big deal. Nothing lost because you haven't expected it. And that is a hard thing for a lot of people to accept in themselves or accept as a whole, because you're convinced, well, this is their parent. They need to be there. They need to be present. They need to be involved. Yes, we know what they need to be doing, but realistically, if they were doing it or if they were capable of doing it, they would. Not everybody is emotionally intelligent. And quite often when you're dealing with someone who is doing this, they are very emotionally immature and they don't know how to show up like you do. They don't know how to be present like you do. And some people are very emotionally immature and need to be spoon-fed when it comes to parenting. And that's when you realize it's not my job to do that. I'm not going to hear and babysit this person. And that's when you need to accept that I need to let go of any of these expectations. I need to let go of whatever I'm wanting from them because they're not going to show up how I want them to. And I know what that's like. And you just think, why can't you just be there? Why can't you just attend this school event? Why can't you just show up? Why can't you just call every now and then? But constantly getting caught up in this thought pattern that they're probably not even thinking about, they're probably not losing sleep over it, but you're losing sleep over something that they're not doing. Let go of that expectation and get your sleep back. Because if they're not going to change, then the only thing you can change is how you react to it. And the way you react to it is just by letting it go. That's a them problem, not a you problem. You show up as your best version of yourself. You show up how you want to for your kids and let them show up how they want to. Now, if you are in an amicable relationship, you may be able to have a conversation with them about how you feel or what you expect from them when it comes to the kids. But if you're in a high conflict co-parenting relationship, if things are quite toxic, then having a conversation with them about how you believe they should show up for the kids is not going to benefit because they will not listen. And I can guarantee you now, if you have a conversation with them about how you want them to show up, they're going to take it like you're attacking their parenting style. They'll get on the defense and it'll turn into an argument because they don't like to take any criticism towards themselves. They'll see that as criticism. They won't see that as you wanting them to do something better for the kids. They won't see it as you wanting to make it a happier place for the kids. They will see it that you're just attacking them. You're the ex who is just coming in, attacking them, telling them what to do. And they're like, who are you to tell me what to do? Who are you to tell me how to parent? And that's when it escalates. It is not your job to fix your ex. Let them. So let go of any expectations of what they should and shouldn't be doing as a parent. Let them sort it out themselves. Most importantly, here's another one. Do not react. Quite often when you get a message from your ex and you may not like it and straight away you're just boom, 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 typing a quick message. I'll show them. And then that's when that whole back and forth just keeps going because you're like, I'm not going to let them win this argument. No way, I'm going to show them. And then it spirals. And then you've had another night where you don't sleep. You've had another night where you're replaying this whole conversation. You're stewing over everything. You're angry. You're pissed off. And then those emotions get taken out on the kids because they're usually the only people that are around you. And so you've got to let your anger out somewhere. And I know you're not intentionally getting angry at your kids, but when you're bottling up all these hurt, it quite often does get taken out on your kids because they get caught in the middle of it. When your ex messages you, do not react. Read it. If you don't need to respond straight away, don't. Think about it. Do not react. Respond. Very different. Responding is when you think about your response. Reacting is when you just write. You're reacting with your emotions. You're not responding from your head. I'll show them. Let the ego go. Drop that for a minute because always remember, this person is not in your life to rub salt into the wound about why you broke up. They're in your life because of your kids. So focus on responding, not reacting. And another thing that will help you with that, if you do struggle with that, is that co-parenting playbook that I have, which is a whole cut and paste guide on how to communicate with your ex when it comes to texting. When they send you bullshit texts that you don't like, and has a cut and paste templates of different examples of what you can say when they really piss you off. So focus on responding to them, not reacting. Another tip is to focus on you, on what you can control. Because, as I've said multiple times already, you cannot control them. You cannot change anything about their world. When you're constantly stewing over things that you cannot change, you are just dragging yourself down. So many people get caught up in this bubble worrying about things that literally they cannot change. That extra worrying, that extra stress, those sleepless nights, it's not changing anything. The only thing that can change an outcome of anything is your reaction. And when you're constantly reacting and getting worked up to things that you can't control, you're adding so much more stress and anxiety to your life. Keep your focus on what you can control. Keep your focus on your time with your kids. Now, I understand that this is not always easy to do, especially at the early stages of a breakup when you're still quite hurt, you're still quite upset. Because at that stage, you don't know how to manage those emotions properly. You don't know how to navigate all this because this is a foreign territory. You don't know how to interact with this person who you don't want to have anything to do with. So usually when you're in this situation, you're responding out of hurt. You're responding out of frustration. You're responding out of all these emotions that are built up inside you from your breakup. But when you can focus on what you can control, when you respond instead of reacting, it makes it all so much easier. So when your ex says something that you don't like, instead of proving a point and one-upping them, or screenshotting messages to show, no, you said this or you said that. That's not going to achieve anything. And quite often when you do that, they're probably not even listening. They're probably loving this drama, this back and forth drama. They're not going to stop. And it doesn't matter how many texts you send to your ex. They're not just going to miraculously read one day and go, they're right. I should message them back and apologize. Or I shouldn't have done that. Or maybe I shouldn't have sent that message to my ex. I guarantee you they will not be sitting there thinking that. So it doesn't matter how many messages you're sending, it's not going to have some random awakening for them where they're like, I should stop. It doesn't happen. They're not going to have that awakening moment from their ex. That constant messages that you're sending, it's not going to achieve anything positive. It's just wasting time of your day and it's adding stress. So not only are you spending hours possibly, sometimes even days, going through these endless messages with your ex, but also on top of that, after all these messages, there's all this stress and the time that you spend debriefing with all your friends about what happened and maybe asking people on social media about what to do. But if you didn't even engage in the first place, if you just responded, or if you just didn't engage at all, then you wouldn't be in that situation. So not only is it important to respond and not react, but it's also important to realize that you don't have to respond to all communication. Especially if you're dealing with a high conflict ex, especially if you're dealing with someone who is very toxic. You don't have to respond to everything. If it's related to the kids, 100%. But if they're asking you bullshit questions like maybe what you're spending child support on, what you're doing on your weekends, who you're seeing, where you're going, any conversation or question that is just not related to them as a parent or to the kids, leave it be. You don't even need to respond to them and say, I don't need to tell you this. Because giving them that response is you're still fueling the fire. You're still going back. Leave it be. And when you're still messaging saying, I don't need to tell you this, you're still emotionally invested. It's like you're still saying, I don't need to tell you this. It's still in a way proving a point. You don't need to prove that point to your ex. And quite often when you're in that stage of wanting to prove a point, it's like you're seeking that validation, you're seeking that acknowledgement, but you're not going to get it from your ex. It's like you're wanting someone to say, yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. You are not going to get that from your ex. Get it from yourself. And that's when you realize, I don't need to be engaging with this person. I don't need anything from this person. So focus on what you can control. Another important step, and you all know it's one that I love. Boundaries. Have your boundaries. So not only should you focus on responding, not reacting, focusing on what you can control, but also have your boundaries in place. Now, what I just said a minute ago about not responding to messages that aren't related to the kids, that's a boundary. And it's important to remember your boundary doesn't need an explanation. By saying to them, I don't need to respond to this, that's giving them an explanation. You don't even need to tell them that you're not going to respond. If it's not related to the kids, no response, that's your boundary. Not engaging. Done. And that's another example of where this co-parenting playbook that I have on texting comes in handy, because it's setting boundaries. It's texting prompts that go back, that shut the conversation down, where you don't get engaged in this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's these responses that you cut and paste that shut it down. This is what my expectations are. Done. I'm not engaging in this anymore. But it's important to remember that you don't need to even say, I'm not engaging in this anymore, because that's giving an explanation. You don't need to give an explanation for your boundary. Your boundary is what you want. For example, they might come to you and ask to change your weekends and you legitimately cannot. You've already got plans and they're wanting you to change. And then you feel like you need to go back to them and give them all this explanation and say, oh, but this, or no, but that, or but why, or but I don't know. And then maybe you think about changing plans to accommodate them, which does happen. People put themselves out to accommodate their ex. But Your boundary is just responding and say, sorry, I can't this weekend. We've already got plans. Done. You don't even need to say that part that you've got plans. Just say, sorry, I can't this weekend. Done. Boundary set. Short, to the point, done. Have your boundaries when co-parenting. And just remember, when you keep backing down on your boundaries, they know that they can keep walking all over you. So if you're not consistent with setting your boundaries, they're going to keep pushing it. And they know that they can keep getting what they want because you're going to drop your guard and let them get their way. Be consistent with your boundaries. Another thing is have some healthy distractions. Now, I do always say that distracting yourself is not a way to heal or let go from a breakup, but it is good to have healthy distractions. It is good to do things for yourself that make you feel good, whether it be going for a walk, whether it be a gym workout, whether it be just catching up with some friends that make you feel good. Have some healthy distractions so you're not just constantly sitting around stewing on them. Do things that make you feel good. Do things that light you up. So find your healthy distractions, even if it's just sitting in a bath reading a book. Whatever it is that you enjoy doing, have those distractions. So when they do send you that text message and you do want to react, but then you stop and you think about it. And instead of just sitting around thinking, well, what am I going to say? How am I going to respond to this? You just put your phone down, you leave it be, and you go for a walk, or you go sit in the bath, or you go catch up with a friend, or you go do something else. That's a good, healthy distraction. So it's one thing to have a distraction where you completely avoid dealing with everything, but having those healthy distractions are a way to take you off constantly thinking about it when it's consuming your whole life. That's the difference. Don't let a distraction take away from dealing with reality, but use those distractions to avoid that other side, dealing with your ex, take over your reality. So there's a happy medium there. There's a happy medium. Now, the most important step, which is one that so many people avoid doing, is working through those emotions. Now, to do that, it can be done with someone like myself. It can be done with a therapist. It can be done with going down multiple different avenues. However, it is one that you should not avoid doing. Because when you do work through those emotions, it is easier to go through all these steps that I've just said. It is easier to accept the breakup. It is easier to accept your differences. It is easier to accept that they parent differently. It is easier to let go of all those expectations. And it is easier to respond and not react. It is easier to focus on you. It is easier to set boundaries. It is easier to have healthy distractions when you work on all these emotions, when you work on all this hurt, when you work on everything that's come up from the breakup. And it's not about, they broke my heart. That's it. I'm done. It's not just having a broken heart, or it's not just being sad or upset. Because there's a further underlying issue here that's being brought up, whether it be that feeling of not being good enough, that feeling of never being accepted, that feeling of being a failure, where you're constantly questioning your worth, you're constantly questioning your value, you're constantly questioning yourself and your decisions and your choices, constantly comparing your life to others. You're not able to move forward or let go of what's happened. These are feelings that you go through when you don't work through the emotions of your breakup. And it's common for people to think, yes, I'm fine, I'm good. And they convince themselves that they're okay. But then they've still got all these underlying issues. Saying you're okay is one thing, but it's the matter of working through everything. So when you go through that next breakup, you're not feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve this, or they're just going to leave me, or you've got all these abandonment issues and you stay guarded and you can't trust people. All of those feelings and emotions are still there unless you work through them. So saying you're fine, accepting the breakup is one thing. But actually working through all those feelings that came up in the breakup is the most important part. But it is the part that most people forget to do. And when you do that, as I just stated earlier, it is so much easier to do all these other steps that help make co-parenting so much easier. And just remember, this isn't about me saying you need to give in to your ex. You need to let them win. You need to let them think they're right. You need to just bow down and be the better person. No, you're not just being a better person for your ex. This is not what it's about. Because I've had that someone say that once to me before, where they've said, I'm sick of having to be the better person for my ex. You're not being the better person for them. That mentality where you feel like you're constantly being the better person for your ex is where you're walking on eggshells for them. It's where you're doing things to please your ex, where you're doing things because you're avoiding conflict or you're avoiding how you really feel. You don't want to deal with things. So you just feel like you have to give in to them. It's not about being the better person for your ex. It's about getting your life back for you and letting go of your ex. It's a complete opposite. You're not doing anything for them. You're doing it for you. You're doing it for your kids. Holding on to your breakup is not benefiting you in any way. If anything, it's the best part of it all, letting it go. That's where life gets easier. That's where life gets more enjoyable. That's where relationships become more fun and more authentic. You're not dating because you feel like you have to. You're not dating because you feel like you've got to fill this empty gap. You're not dating because you feel like you need that recognition or approval. You're dating because you want someone that's on your level. You want someone that's aligned with what you're looking for. You know what you're looking for. You want someone that matches your energy and lights you up. And that's the whole point in working through things and through all this hurt and everything that's come through from your breakup. It's not a matter of just saying, yes, that hurt me, I'm upset. It's a matter of, let's go deeper. What's this done to you? Because when you're still stalking their profile, when you're still upset about what's happened, you're still getting anxious at pick up and drop off, there's these underlying issues here. And the more you keep leaving it, the longer they're going to be there. And if you go into another relationship and if that doesn't work, those issues or that hurt and all those emotions are still going to be there. And if anything, they're just going to get even bigger until you actually work through it. The more you avoid it, the more you sweep it under the carpet. So those are my tips on how to make co-parenting a little bit easier for you. Actually, no, I'm going to reframe that. It's not going to make it a little bit easier. It's going to make a hell of a lot easier. But it is important to really work through that, especially when it's a toxic, high conflict breakup, because there is a lot more hurt, a lot more emotions, and a lot more anger, and a lot more of those underlying issues, of those abandonment issues, those feelings of not being good enough, those feelings of being rejected. All those issues are still there. And that's when you're more inclined to just date, because you just want to prove that I am worthy of this. I do deserve this. So just remember, I'll run through those tips with you again, just very quickly. Accept that they parent differently. Accept that the breakup is over. It's happened. It's done. And it's now separate to your co-parenting relationship. Accept all your differences. They're not going to do things the same as you. Let go of any expectations. Let it go. Stop expecting them to do anything, whether it be a reason, an apology, an explanation, showing up, anything from them. Let go of any expectations. Learn to respond to any messages or interaction you have with them, not react. Focus on what you can control. Focus on your world, your time with your kids. Have your boundaries and stick with them. Be firm and be clear, and have your healthy distractions. Do things that make you feel good, so you're not constantly sitting around focusing on them and that message that they've sent, or focusing on having to do handover or pick up tomorrow or whenever day you do it. Focus on you and what you can control. And most importantly, work through those emotions that are there. If you're still getting triggered, if you're still feeling hurt, if you're still pissed off, there's still emotional attachment there. And that's what you need to work through. What's there? What's that underlying issue? What's holding you back? So remember, if anyone ever wants to work through that, I'm here and would love to chat with you guys. There is that free chat in the show notes there. So jump down, and guys, feel free to give me a comment. Let me know what you think of the show. Let me know what you found most beneficial. If there's anything there that you're struggling with the most, that you're finding tough, come over, let's have a chat, let's talk about it. And most importantly, if you have any other single parent friends that are needing some support, then let them know about the show. Let's get this out there, and feel free to give me a little review or any feedback of what you're thinking about the podcast. And that's about it from me, guys. Thank you all for jumping on and listening, and I hope you got some valuable content from this episode. And until next week, I'll be in your ears then. Thank you for joining us on the Life After Plus One podcast. If you loved what you heard today and looking for some further support, then jump onto our website, lifeafterplusone.com. Plus, don't forget to check out our Instagram page for further resources and inspo. You can find all the links in the show notes. And remember, you're not alone on this path. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, keep thriving, keep growing, and keep exploring your amazing life after plus one.